Welcome to BaseballGuys.com. I'm your host, Ray Flowers. Wearing the Sharks hat today, trying to support my team after losing 2-1 in Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. Sharks still have a chance, obviously, to move on to the first Stanley Cup Finals in history of the franchise. I hope it happens. I'm lending my support with this hat. Back to the world of baseball, which is why you're all here. Lots of stories to discuss, and the first one I want to touch on is the situation in the outfield with the Toronto Blue Jays up north. Now, Travis Snider had a really slow start to the year. A lot of people were worried about him, but he really has taken off in May. He's got an OPS of over 1,100. His batting average is approaching 380. Unfortunately, he has a wrist injury, and though everyone thinks it's a minor situation, he has been placed on the disabled list. Hopefully, he'll be able to return when the 2 weeks are up. What this does do is it does allow what could become a crowded situation in that Jays outfield to remain pretty simple, because what happens now that Edwin Encarnacion has been brought back off the disabled list, he'll return to third base. Jose Bautista, who'd been filling in at third base, will move to the outfield, and that will also leave a spot in the outfield for Fred Lewis. What happens when Snider returns? The plan all along has always been for Lewis to be that fourth outfielder. Even though he's had a fairly successful run here to start his Blue Jays career, that's probably the direction they'll go. Look for that maybe to occur in 2 weeks, but again, we have to make sure that a guy like Encarnacion can stay healthy. We haven't seen that from him for an awful long period of time. The Orioles got some good news with two of their injured players. Brian Roberts, who's out with a back issue. He's progressed to fielding grounders. He's taking some swings. Still not certain when he'll be back. We don't have a real timetable. Maybe a couple of weeks, maybe early June. He's going to obviously have to go down and spend some time in the minors to get his game in shape. Hopefully, things will progress from here. It's been a slow start to the year for Roberts, but it looks like there might finally be some end of the tunnel for the leadoff guy that truly has been missed in the Orioles lineup. On the hill, Mike Gonzalez, thought to be the closer coming into the season, has had shoulder issues. Obviously, they're precluding him from filling that role. He is progressing as well in his recovery. He actually threw batting practice facing live pitchers for the first time since going out with the injury. Went very well. Everything was positive. Look for him to do that a couple more times to get into some game work in the minor leagues. And like Roberts, to hopefully be back with the club by middle of June at the latest. Situation's a little bit different in Boston. We've got some good news and some bad news. The good news is Jacoby Ellsbury took the field today in a minor league game. He went 1 for 3, scored a couple of runs, didn't report any significant issues with his side. Now, there is a concern that Ellsbury said, look, I'm a little bit timid. I'm a little bit afraid to really go all out. He admitted that he's not 100%, but it was a good first step. If he has a couple more of these, there's a good chance he might be activated before the end of the week for the Red Sox. In the other direction, Mike Cameron had a bit of a setback in his recovery. It was thought all along that he'd return to the lineup before Ellsbury would. Now at this point, we're not certain. Cameron's got that groin abdomen injury. He's had to slow things down for a couple of days. He'll probably need to do some more work in the minor leagues before he can be activated. They were hopeful of activating him today or tomorrow. That's not going to happen. He still hopes to be back by the end of the week, but with this recent setback, you have to keep your fingers crossed that that is a reality for the Red Sox. Nick Johnson? Well, Nick Johnson got hurt, and if you followed Nick Johnson's career, big flipping shock. Nick Johnson's probably going to miss 4 to 6 weeks, if not longer, with a wrist injury that's going to require surgery. It's going to be a significant issue. In fact, Joe Girardi came out and said that. This is not something that's just a minor thing. It's a significant issue. The 4 to 6 week time frame is probably optimistic. With his history of injury, we're probably looking at 2 months. You look back at Johnson's track record. He's been an effective on-base machine, on-base percentage of 400 in his career. However, he has one season in his entire Major League career of 460 plus at-bats. Doesn't look like he's going to be getting number 2 this year in his return to New York. Jimmy Rollins, good news with Jimmy Rollins. Jimmy Rollins is back off the disabled list. He'll go right back into the starting lineup for the Phillies after missing time with that calf injury. Remains to be seen how much running he'll do immediately. He might slowly work his way in, but the fact that he's back in the lineup should give him the opportunity to be inserted at the top of that order and score a ton of runs, even if he takes a while to pick up his speed on the base paths. Mark DeRosa, another injured player, has officially been placed on the disabled list with his wrist injury. Called the surgery he had previously a total failure. Most people seem to think at this point that he will require surgery again. Whether or not it's in the very short future or a little bit further off remains to be seen. DeRosa says he's feeling better. He's hopeful through diligent maintenance that he'll be able to return to action this year to help the Giants, because if he does go under the knife, it'll mean the end of his 2010 season. And finally, we've got the situation in Milwaukee. Doug Davis has an issue with his heart. Not a long-term concern. It's something that should clear up, but he's going to miss some time. He's been placed on the disabled list. That leaves Manny Parra to reassume a role in the starting rotation. Now, Parra was a disaster last year, not because of the loss of stuff, but because he had no idea where he was throwing the ball. He couldn't control anything. This year, his work out of the bullpen has been exemplary. He's got an ERA in the 3.9s. He's got basically a strikeout per innings pitched, and his walk rate has dropped precipitously. In fact, his strikeout to walk ratio at this point is 5-1. If he can just continue to throw strikes, Manny Parra will have a ton of value in NL-only leagues. If he can continue to have a lot of success, he might even stick in that rotation long term. If he does that, he might even have value in deep mixed leagues. Again, I'm Ray Flowers. It's BaseballGuys.com. Thanks for joining me on Monday, and I'll talk to you all again later on Around the Horn.